Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Essentials for Rack Pack. We're going to be talking about SBM serial lot tracking today. So just to refresh your memories, bring you all up to speed, serial lot tracking in MISys, as many of you know, allows you to flag items as serialized or lot tracked, and then associate quantities that come in, get used, get built, and then ultimately transferred over to sales to a given serial or lot number. Okay, and that gives you the traceability to track quantities of items that were pulled from given lots, put into and built into serialized or lot tracked assemblies from the bottom all the way up to the top. Okay, and many of you are familiar with this from SAE. What we're going to be looking at today is some of the enhancements and differences that are in place in MISys SBM. Okay, as we're going to see here, much of this is the same in SBM, okay, functionally. So what you're going to see is, as far as the functional side of things, as transactions get processed for SL tracked items, we're still going to throw that familiar prompt that you'll get asking you what lots or serial numbers, quantities were being pulled from or put into with each of those transactions. You also have the ability to access an assignment form where any of your unresolved assignment records can be processed and attached to those serial numbers or lots. But we've also, we're taking steps in the design in SBM to try and stem what can sometimes be substantial as far as a data entry standpoint with the number of records that need to be processed. Okay, so as we go through, we're going to be looking at various ways we've limited and enhanced the data entry side to the serial lot tracking. Okay, so to start with, let's visit the administration function. Okay, and talk about baseline what you're going to do when it's time to set up a company to go with serial lot tracking. Okay, so on the General tab, the first selection here is serial lot tracking. So once they get that license, okay, they update it through the server administration function, you're going to flag this switch here, and that basically turns on all the serial lot tracking functionality. Okay, the next tab to focus on here is preferences. Okay, and there are really two settings here, one of which is pretty substantial. Okay, this update sales order serial lot information we can ignore. That's for another accounting package. Okay, but the one that we're going to talk about for a moment here is this track WIP selection. Okay, what this allows you to do is skip assignments that go into and out of WIP for your SL tracked items. Okay, this is a very handy feature for those clients that won't need to know necessarily what serial or lot numbers go into or out of WIP. It's useful in situations where they're dealing with very short amounts of time. They don't necessarily need to keep track of quantities that were pulled from a lot and gone into WIP. It's reasonable for them to just keep track of those when they are actually completed or consumed in the production process and used in a parent item. Okay, so what you'll find is if you're doing allocates, right, or you're starting production on that manufacturing order for a serial lot tracked item, if you don't have this selected, they're not going to have that allocate stock to WIP assignment record that they'll have to go in and assign quantities to. Okay, they would only have an assignment when the completion is done or when the actual build takes place. Then they've got to tell us what lot they pulled components from. Okay, so just clear this checkbox and then you can skip over those WIP transactions. All right, so let's go into master files, go to items, and let's talk about some of the changes with items. All right, so we'll click on New here. All right, we'll create a new item. All right, so let's call this one ABC Top. Okay, we'll say serial tracked item. All right, so down here in the serial lot tracking section, two of these settings are going to seem pretty familiar. Okay, the first one is a serial lot tracking type. Okay, by default, a new item is flagged as common, just like in SAE. In our case, we're going to flag it as serialized, but you notice also lot tracked is available. So we'll say serialized. Now, we've changed the title. Okay, in SAE, the default sort was flagged as dispensation method. Okay, your selections are still the same. All right, we've just changed the name. All right, you can select the sort of SL number, expiration date, FIFO, LIFO, and much the same as in SAE. That's used as the default sort. So when you're using things like assign all or viewing them, that's the way they're going to appear in the listing. Okay, so let's make this guy assembled. All right, we'll save this. All right, now let's create a new one. Let's call this one ABC sub. Okay, we'll do this in preparation for an example that we can walk through later. Okay, we're going to call this sub, make it assembled. This one will make lot tracked. Okay, we'll keep the sort the same. And we'll make one more that we'll call raw. Okay, and that will just be a raw material. And we'll make this one also lot tracked and keep the sort the same. Okay, so we've created 3 new items here. We flagged them as serial tracked and lot tracked. Okay, now in SAE, one of your next steps might have been to go into serial lot tracking, right, which now is located under stock control, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but for now, let's just walk through how we would have created serial lot numbers in SAE. So we'll bring up raw, okay, and we would give it a lot number, right, ABC 001, we'll say. Okay, hit tab, click save. Oops, I added the wrong one. All right, so we've created that. And we've created the lot number for it. Okay? However, there's also another way you can do that in SBM. What you're going to see is that in the items master files, we have a tab that's called SL numbers. Okay? Select the SL numbers tab, and you'll see existing lots for this serial or lot tracked item. You then have the ability to click New from here. All right, so let's go back to that sub, the ABC sub. I want to create a new one for this guy right from this tab. So I click New, right, and it brings up that form. So we're going to call this sub 001. Click Save. And I've created a lot number for my sub assembly, okay, right from that new tab, SL numbers tab, okay, and it appears right here. As you'll see, I've got quick and easy access now by clicking on this tab for any of my serial or lot tracked items to take a look at what quantity I've got in stock, used, received, scrapped, built, for any one of the lots or serial numbers that exist for this item. Okay, so no longer do you have to go into your serial lot tracking section, use the finder, bring up that item, cycle through the lot you want, and then go to the stock tab. Now we can just click on this tab. It grabs any serial lot information for this item, shows us the appropriate quantities for each one of those associated lot numbers. Okay. Now along those same lines, we'll jump back to our raw here. All right. If I don't want a lot number. I want to remove it. I highlight it, click on the delete button, okay, and I can perform SL number maintenance from this tab. So I can delete them if they're able to be deleted, okay, create new ones, or I can print them, all right, by clicking the print button. Okay, so on the stock tab here, we also have what you're all familiar with is the SLT details. I could click on a location, click SLT details, and it'll bring up any serial lot information just like it does in SAE, and I can take a look at what's going on for lots at this location for this item, okay, the drill downs here. All right, so let's just bring up top here. Serialized, and click Save. All right, so we've created 3 new items, and we're going to walk through some examples with those in just a moment. But let's move on now to the other master files function that also has some access to the SLT information, which is locations. Okay, so under locations, okay, just like in SAE, on your items tab, you have the SLT stock, okay, which will drill down into the SLT stock information, just similar to what it did in stock tab, bring up that lot information for a given item. And when you go to the bins tab, you also have bin SLT stock. Just like in SAE, as you perform transfers for an item that's been tracked, it automatically integrates with the SLT information in that as you process quantities at a given bin, the assignment record is going to reflect that bin that it was being pulled from or put into so that you'll be able to get that traceability for that lot as it was processed from a given location and bin. Okay? That's all integrated automatically for you. All right, so that's master file. So items, we have a new tab, SL numbers, makes things very easy to access, makes the information right at your fingertips, so there's no more cycling through things. And the location still has the drill downs you're all familiar with. Okay, so let's talk physical inventory now. So we've got our new items. We flagged them as serial tracked. Okay. Now we want to put some quantities in stock for those items. So maybe I print a worksheet, okay, populate my batch. So in this case, we're just going to manually create one. So we'll create a new batch. So we're going to say test SLPI batch. All right, we'll add a new line. Okay, and we're going to put, say, 100 in stock. All right, so we've got our item in here. Note this field, serial lot tracking type. So in this case, we're going to click the drill down. All right, it says ABC raw, lot tracked at this location. Your quantity is 100. We're going to say new SL number if I wanted to create a new one, or I say add new line, pull up the finder, and it's going to show me any existing lots for this item. Select the lot, put the quantity in, okay, save your entry. Okay, so now what I've said is I'm going to be increasing stock by 100. Those 100 are going into lot ABC001. So what's going to happen now, normally we would check the batch just to make sure we could verify what was going to happen before it happened. However, in this case, we're just going to check our batch and we're going to post it right up. Okay, we're now going to go back to Master Files Items, take a look at the new tabs that we just created. Okay, go right into raw, SL numbers. There's our quantity in stock. Okay, now those of you who have worked with serial lot tracking know that if you were posting batches, physical inventory batches, for your serial or lot tracked items, what was the next thing you had to do? The very next thing you had to do was go into assign SL numbers and assign all of those count stock records, okay, to tell us what quantities those items or what lots those quantities went into for every one of those SL tracked items. Well, now you can put that in on the fly for each one of those SL tracked items in the batch. So you get it ahead of time. It cuts down the data entry on the backside of the posting. Okay. Now, if you get to a situation where they're going to be using the barcode, then it gets incredibly cool because the barcode programs will now throw prompts up for SL information. So take that same batch scenario. If we go back to the batch, what you would have is they'd be wanding in all their counts. When you get to the batch, what you'd be doing is clicking on this barcode button. You'd actually import through that file you got from the handheld barcoder, and it would bring in all the counts along with all the SL information right into the batch. So then that literally, once you get this batch in, you're going to the post function, posting the batch, and all those assignment records are going to get processed at the same time. Everything gets done as soon as you post it. Okay, so it supports the barcode as well. All right. Okay, so right now we created those 3 items. Let's go in and define a bill of material for those. Okay, so we're going to say new. ABC top. Okay, revision's going to be 0. Okay, so for our materials, we're going to make ABC sub be the subassembly. We'll keep this very simple. Okay, and then ABC sub. Is going to have a component of ABC raw. Okay, so we're all set. So we have top, which uses sub. Okay, and sub uses raw. And these are all lot or serial tracked. Okay, so let's go into stock control. Now, obviously, we could do this from a manufacturing order or a work order, but just for the sake of an example, ABC top, book 1, to build 1. Actually, let's build sub first. So we'll build sub first. Okay. The familiar prompts you've probably already seen. Do you want to assign serial lot numbers to this transaction? Sure. Okay. There's our sub going into sub 001. Click Save. It says, all right, you use these lot track components. Click Assign. I know I've got some quantities in here. We're going to say Assign All. Okay, and it took care of that by assigning all the quantities of the component into that sub. All right, now we'll build ABC top, which is the top level. Okay, do you wish to assign? Okay, we're going to click New because we can do this on the fly. Okay, we're going to create serial numbers. Okay, in sequence, we'll go ahead and build out, say, 2 of them, or 10 of them. All right, and then they show up in our list. Push them over. Okay, here's the lot track component. We say assign, assign all, and it takes care of all the assignments for us. Okay, looks very similar to SAE. You get the prompts. You get the ability to create new ones if you don't have existing serial or lot numbers. It pulls up the information. You can assign it at transaction time. Okay, or we could build the same transactions got to build sub first. Okay, we're going to say no this time. And we'll build ABC top. Okay, and we'll say no for that one. Okay, so we processed a few transactions, all right, for serial lot tracked items. We've assigned those transactions on the fly, okay, right off of this form. We can do that. We can also, what we've just done here, click no. Those assignment records get collected under the serial lot tracking section, under the assign SL numbers section. So we see those here. We're going to visit that in just a moment. All right, so for now, let's talk about serial lot numbers. Okay? So in the serial lot numbers section, this is where you're getting a listing of existing SL numbers for any of your SL tracked items. All right, this is the same basis as what you would have seen in SAE. However, just like all the other menus here, we've taken steps now to make this much more user-friendly. We've put a lot more information right at the mouse pointer. Okay, so each one of your items is listed up here. You click on the one you want, and it updates the display to show you each one of the existing lot numbers or serial numbers for that item. Okay, so again, just to kind of put this in perspective, in SAE, you would have gone into the SL numbers function, brought up that form, typed in the item number, or used the finder to select the one you want, and then from there you would have cycled through to find the lot number you were interested in or the serial number you were interested in. Okay, now you get them all right here. You get pertinent quantity information so that you can select the one you want, okay, and then double-click it to pull up that same form. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at ABC top. Okay, so this is our top level item. We just created it. Okay, it's a serial tracked item. Okay, so the first thing to note here is the status drop-down. Okay, active, on hold, closed, and archive. Okay, active obviously means it's an active serial or lot number. Okay, it can be processed. If it goes on hold, you cannot use that serial number unless you've changed its status to active. That means it's on hold, can't be used. Archive stops this serial or lot number from being displayed as an available serial or lot number when you're making assignments. Okay, so if you set it to archive, you're not going to find it in the available listing when you go to make an assignment. Closed, and this is important, once you set it to closed, you can't use this serial lot number again. Okay, so once you set it to closed, make sure you're certain that it should be closed. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at the stock tab. All right, gives you locations, the quantity you currently have in stock of this serial number at this location. Quantity used gets updated as this assembly gets used from this serial number. Received is obviously received, scrapped, and so on. Okay, if it were used in bins, we could click the bin details button. and we'd see a listing of bins here for various quantities. History gives you the history for this serial number. Transaction date has a drill down, so if you wanted to see pertinent information for that transaction, click the drill down, and you'll get that here. Okay? Oh, one other thing. You could print a pick list here, okay, or you can get SLT details. Okay, so we have all kinds of drill downs. You're going to find you get all the detail you need. Just keep on drilling down, okay, from top to bottom. Okay, so let's jump to the tree tab for a moment. Okay, so the tree tab looks similar to SAE again, right? However, what you now have the ability to do over here on the right, okay, are two functions I want to focus on for a moment here. There's go-to, which by highlighting it automatically brings you to the item in the tree you were focused on. Okay, so if you wanted to grab that specific lot, okay, and I'll go home here for a minute. I want to navigate back to the beginning. All right, so now I'm back to ABC top for this serial number. I'm looking at my tree. Maybe I'm interested in what quantities were pulled from what lots at a given level. I happen to drill all the way down to the bottom. Okay, I'm going to select this because maybe I want to check out the lot. Select the item. Click Go To. Automatically brings up that item at that lot. So now maybe I can take a look at history, stock quantities. Okay, I jump right to that lot number from the tree tab. Okay, clicking Home takes you right back to the top level. Okay, if I wanted to go to the sub, same deal. Select the one I want to go to. It brings me right to that item, to that lot it was pulled from. Okay, so let's talk about another way you can do this. We're going to go to our Assign SL Numbers form here real quick. You'll remember our second transaction we processed a few moments ago was to build an ABC top. And we chose at that point in time not to make any assignments. Okay, so now what we see here under the Assign SL Numbers form is ABC top. Okay, because we chose not to assign it. So similar to SAE, I now have the ability to process those assignments. So what I'm going to do here is just process the ABC top. You and I know that there's a sub that's used and a raw underneath that. We're not going to process those right now. So what we're going to do, ABC top, click Assign. Okay, select the serial number that we want this quantity to go to. Click Save. All right, that one's processed. So now let's jump back to serial lot numbers and pull up ABC top again. Okay, we built that into ABC2, so let's take a look at it. All right, we're going to bring it up. So we're going to jump right back to that tree tab again. Selecting ABC sub now flags, hey, you used one of these, but it isn't assigned yet. All right, now in our simplistic example, we just went into assign serial lot numbers. We're dealing with one transaction. We happen to look at it, right? But in a real-life situation, as they're checking out serial numbers or maybe lot numbers of assemblies that were built, if they happen to check the tree to see the flow or what quantities from what lots were used, if they hit any that were unassigned, that means there are outstanding assignment records that exist for the components. Okay, so normally you'd have to jump back to assign SL numbers, find the one you want, assign that record. Or we know the quantity, we know the item, it's unassigned, we can click Assign. Okay, once we build the quantity. for that. So assuming you have some in stock, unlike me, once you go back to the serial lot number, click Assign, and it brings up your available lots so that you can now put the quantity in, and you can actually make the assignment from the Tree tab. Okay, so we've really enhanced the serial lot number function to not only make it an inquiry-based form, but it's also functional now in that you can actually process assignments from it as well as drill down into lower-level component usage. Okay, so let's talk about assign SL numbers now. We've already seen a brief example of it. However, very similar to the way it worked before or in SAE. Select the item you want. It updates the display with outstanding assignments that need to be made. As you scroll to the right, you're going to see all the different columns. Okay, parent item to indicate what it was used in. If you'd like to drill into that item number, click the drill down. Okay, and it launches that item form. Okay, maybe you go to SL numbers to inquire on it. Okay, you can highlight and click Assign, or you double-click on it. Assign the parent. And then this time, instead of using Assign All, we're going to manually pick the lot we want to assign from it. Okay, and we've resolved it. Okay, so if they choose not to make the assignment on the fly, they then go into the Assign SL Numbers form and make the assignments here. Now there's another button here which is going to be of interest to you. It's called the Remove button. Okay, you need to be very careful with the Remove button and proceed with caution when you use it. All right, this specifically allows for the removal or the deletion of an assignment record. Okay, so I'm literally going to put my quantities out of sync right now just so you can see how it works. So I'm going to take an SL19 and I'm going to do a return of 1. Okay, so I've returned a quantity of 1. I'm going to assign it to a lot. Go 1. Or actually, excuse me, I'm not going to. I'm going to leave that assignment here so that it shows up under my assign SL numbers. Now let's say, for whatever reason, I did not want this assignment record to have to be processed. Okay. I could click and highlight this, select Remove. You'll get a prompt telling you you're about to permanently remove this assignment record. Are you sure you want to do that? You click OK, and it deletes that assignment record. All right, now what I've done here, since we're dealing with SL tracked items, is I have actually caused my quantity in stock to now be out of sync with what I've got in my lots. Okay, and that's a problem. All right, however, this is here as more of an admin function. Okay, and I'll give you an example of how this might happen. Some of you may have even run into this in SAE. Okay, sometimes the clients you're dealing with are going to be using quantities that extend out even 6 decimal places. Okay, so we're talking about near 0 values. Now, when they're building quantities of subassemblies, the rounding that can occur could make it so that even after you've assigned the quantity that was used in a build, you'll have an assignment record here that might say 0.00001 remaining to be assigned. But you don't really want to assign that because the rounding is what caused that to happen. The quantity you've already assigned to a lot is actually accurate, and it matches up with what's in stock. It's just due to the minuscule number that they're using and the conversion that's taking place, you're actually left with this assignment record because MISys has done that math and come up with the .0001. Well, in SAE, you almost, in those cases, you can run data integrity check, and you can still do that here, and many times that will clear that record. And in SAE, many times it clears that record as well. However, sometimes it wouldn't, and it is actually a labor to actually go in there and remove that record. Okay, you almost have to go to the database level in some cases. So in SPM, we've actually added the remove function to allow you to delete those records if they're no longer needed or if you don't have to assign them. But I can't stress enough, that's more of an admin function. You really want to be careful when you use that. Make sure your clients know you don't want to click that unless you're certain that you don't need to assign that record. Okay? But it is available there, and it makes cleanup in those situations much less painful. Okay, much less painful. Okay, so let's look at one other function that is worth noting here from the assign. So we'll do another return of our SL19. Go into assign a cell. All right, we're going to say assign. There's another button on this form that you can click here, which is import. Okay, now import allows you to import an assignment of this SL tracked assignment record. Okay, now what do I mean by that? What I'm talking about specifically here is barcoding now has the ability to scan individual transactions, okay, with the SL number that you're going to associate with this quantity. Okay, so but it's individual transactions. There's no batching function. There's no way to assign a batch of these assignments. It's one at a time, but you do have the ability to import those in, okay, through this import function. Okay, you would just click barcode file, point to your file, and process it in. Okay, and that would make the assignment for you. Okay, so let's talk about confirming. It confirms serial lot number assignments. This is the function that locks in the assignments you made for those items to whatever lot SL numbers they went into. Okay, once you confirm them, they can't be undone. All right, so that's the key point with the confirm SL number assignments. Okay, when you make the assignment, they are still available to be undone. So if you made a mistake, maybe you assigned something to the wrong lot, you can still undo that assignment and then reissue it to the correct lot number. Okay? The confirm function makes it so that those are locked in. They're no longer able to be backed out. All right? Now, many times you're going to do the confirm right away. However, we have a preview function which you can click, which will tell you based on the prior to date you set here, and we'll just push it out here till we get some of them. Okay, what transactions are going to be confirmed when you process this? This is different than SAE. SAE just had the confirm button. Okay, you gave us the date, you click confirm, it locks those assignments in. Now you've got a preview so you can check it ahead of time, focus in on the date maybe, make sure that those assignments are truly valid, okay, and correct, and then you confirm it, and that locks those assignments in. All right. Now, what you're going to find is as you start processing, if you don't confirm them, once you get 30 days out from an unconfirmed assignment, we're going to start prompting you to let you know that assignments have been processed but haven't yet been confirmed. Okay, we do that in SAE as well, but we kept that in SPM. All right, letting you know you still have assignments out there that could still be undone and reissued to different lots. So you might want to confirm those. Now, along those same lines, what we also have under your dashboard alerts, some of you may have already seen this, you see an unconfirmed SL assignments function. Okay, this specifically is going to show you any unconfirmed assignments where the transaction date happened 30 days plus. All right, so that's already in there, and you'll find that on your dashboard alerts. So along those lines, undo serial lot assignment. If you happen to make an assignment and you typed in the wrong lot number, maybe someone looked at a report or they used that tree, they drilled up or down and said, hey, that's not the right lot. As long as it's not confirmed, you can come to the item. You'll see the assignments that were made to it. Select the assignment you want to process, and you can undo it. Okay, that will put it back in the assigned SL number list so that you can reissue it to the correct lot. Okay, again, once you confirm these, they're gone. Okay, they're no longer able to be undone. Export serial lot tracking history. From time to time, you may want to browse through the history of existing lots. You plug in a date range here, click on Export. You can. This section is, again, this is for other accounting packages. Click on Export. Give us a file. And we'll export all the SL tracking history that occurred within those dates out to a CSV file so that you could go into that file, manipulate the data, take a look at it, whatever you need to do. Okay, export serial lot tracking history. Delete serial numbers. This is much the same as well. However, the UI is a little bit different. Okay, you have status checkboxes here. Okay, the delete button, so you're going to select your ranges, the SL numbers you want to delete. But we provide you with a note here. Okay, we get this question pretty frequently. Hey, I try to delete my serial numbers. It won't let me. This note tells you the conditions, or tells the client the conditions, that need to exist in order for them to actually delete that serial lot number. Okay, you got to have 0 quantities in stock and WIP. Can't have any history. Okay, that's a key indicator. They need to go to the next function, which is purge SL history, to purge out any of that history. Okay, before you can actually delete it. Okay, and this function is exactly the same. Right, you give us the ranges of items, the serial lot numbers, tell us the prior to date, we're going to purge out all that history. Okay, and then the archival function. This allows you, rather than archiving your items and lots one at a time, okay, you can archive a range of lots and or items, okay, by using this function. All right, select your dates, go based on created, last used, when they might have expired. Okay, so the key point here is much of this is the same. We've taken steps at this point, okay, to make things much more user-friendly. There's not as much digging that needs to take place to find the lots you're interested in for inquiry purposes. Okay, we've added functionalities to some of those tabs that used to strictly be for inquiry only. Okay, we've added that SL numbers tab to the items so that you no longer have to jump from one function to the other to then create the numbers. You can do them right from there. Okay, it's also worth noting we still have the import function. So if you want to import serial lot numbers, just file import serial lot numbers. All right, that's all there. Now, what do you get from this? Okay, what you get from this, and the one transaction we didn't do as well, is the transfer to sales, right? And that kind of completes the flow. You know, we've seen how a build can take place. We assign top. Once we get the top number assigned to a serial number, it then says, all right, what subassembly did you use? And from what lot number? We tell it. I used this subassembly, and I pulled it from this lot number. All right, well, it had serial lot tracking components. Where did you pull those from? So we tell it, hey, we pulled it from this lot number for this item. Okay, so now you have traceability from the top to the bottom or bottom to the top, whichever way you go. You know specifically what lots each of those quantities of each of those items was pulled from, and then you transfer the item over to sales, and it integrates exactly the same way as it did in SAE. Okay, we update serialized inventory or the lot tracking section in ACPAC with that lot number and quantity. Okay, in this case, we didn't map it, so we'll just select an item on the fly. Can still do that. Okay, manufacturing to sales. Had zero cost, so it didn't go through, but you get the idea. So let's talk about 5.6 just for a moment, okay? Now, right now, we're working with 5.5. Once we release 4.2, okay, as you can imagine, with the changes to ACPAC 5.6, what you're going to find when we release MISys SPM 4.2 is we have to make some changes with regard to SL integration, okay, between MISys and ACPAC. So in particular, the changes that are going to be made are going to have to do with sales transfers. Okay, that's going to facilitate immediate assignment of the SL number at the time of the transfer to sales in order to accommodate the way ACPAC 5.6 works. So along those lines, while it's certainly not locked in yet, what you're going to find is that the behavior and functions that are added are going to be similar to the way in which the physical inventory works. Okay, you're going to start seeing a drill down, perhaps, where you tell us what lot number you're going to pull that transfer from, and that's what gets sent over. But it has to be done at transfer time. Okay, again, this is still in the design phase. However, it's just something to look forward to. Okay, and that's kind of where we're working in SPM to try and eliminate some of the data entry that can put a strain on people. Okay. So real quick here with regard to reports, many of the same reports are available under serial lot tracking. Okay, items gives you a list of your items. Stock status, we'll actually look at some samples here. I know we're running short on time. So you've got stock status, SL history, okay, where used, your breakdown of where everything was used. Components used go in the other direction, so components that were used in your parents. Pick list. Okay, so you get the quantities of the components. If the component happens to be serial lot tracked, here are the lot numbers you can pick from. MO pick list. Okay, and so on. So I guess at this point, we'll open it up to questions.
Okay, Doug, thanks very much. We've got a question from Dana. It's actually been sitting there for a while, and maybe it's already been answered, but Dana asks, can assignments be delayed?
Sure. Yeah, what you would do in that case, as you process your transfer, you would click no when it says, do you want to assign the transaction right now? And then that assignment record would literally sit under the Assign SL form. Let me just, let's see, we'll do a return here. That will sit in the Assign SL form until you actually get around to assigning it. So you'd click no, back under Assign SL. These transactions would sit as available until you got around to assigning those.
Okay, thank you. And from Sonia, I find that clients want to not assign lot numbers to dummy transactions they use to adjust their inventory. That's interesting. I try to stress that even those transactions represent real items and suggest that they use dummy lot numbers as well. With SPM, would you recommend they use the remove button for SL assignments for this purpose?
Yeah.
Do you want to jump on that one?
Well, you don't want to do that, and the reason for that is right now, you know, if you return 100 into stock, let's say you create a brand new item. If you return 100 into stock, and you were then to remove that assignment record that said, hey, you just returned 100 of this. What lot did you put those into? If you delete this, your stock quantity is now going to show 100 in stock, but they're not going to be associated with a lot, and more importantly, there's no way to associate them with a lot. You know, you'd actually have to go through a troubleshooting problem. I mean, you could get there, but it would be some work to get it back in sync. So using the remove in that case, and you know, I would argue even have the way they do it there, they really do want to assign it. At its base, when you flag an item as serial or lot tracked, every single transaction that you process for that item is going to have an assignment record associated with it. And you have to handle each one of those. Otherwise, your lot quantity gets out of sync with your stock quantity, okay, and you will cause problems for yourself. You want to keep those in sync. And really, the only natural way they could even potentially get out of sync, and it doesn't happen all that often, is with that rounding type of deal where you'll get a very minuscule number that's a result of rounding taking place, which is really why this remove is there. But you really want to avoid that if at all possible.
Okay, so let's see. Dana asks, is it possible to add an assignment record, the reverse of removing one? I don't know why you do that, but
no, you could
have something in mind.
Yeah, I mean, if, you know, and that kind of brings up a subject, and you know, since we're talking about this, I'm assuming the reason you would ask that is, hey, if I have a client, what happens if I happen to get a situation where they remove this, right? If they remove an assignment record inadvertently, can I correct that? You can, and what you would do in that case, so let's say I have a stock quantity of 100, but no lot to reflect that, no lot quantity. What you would do there is you would go into administration. You'd go to company options, under preferences, or under general rather. You would disable serial lot tracking and tell everybody to stop processing. Then you would dispense 100 of that item to get it back to 0. And then you'd re-enable this and do the return. And then you'd process your assignment record, everything's in sync again. So you'd have to flick the toggle, make whatever transaction you wanted to remove that stock quantity that you deleted the assignment record for, and then process it. Obviously, in the case of a dispense or a return, that's very straightforward. Once you start getting into assemblies and you get down a few levels in an assembly that was used in a sub, it gets a little more complex. So, but no, there's no way to auto-generate an assignment record. No.
Okay, and thanks very much for answering that, because it gave me time to read Tom Blazek's question, which okay. I've now distilled down to 3 or 4 paragraphs. Thanks, Tom. I was glad to know you're thinking about these things. And let me read it to you, Doug.
Okay.
I have sold multiples of both finished goods to multiple customers where some of the items are lot tracked. The lot tracked component in a given lot has been used. How do I generate a list of the particular ACPAC transactions, invoices, credit notes, etc., related to the lot tracked component? If I have a recall, for example, such that I know whom to contact. I think the operative part of that is, how do I generate a list of ACPAC transactions related to a lot number?
Well, what you would have to have there in that case, if you have a listing of the sales numbers, okay, the lot numbers that over in ACPAC were being, say, recalled, what you could do, and you wanted to then trace that back in MISys to get a listing of all the components that were used, that type of thing. What you would do under reports there, and you could actually take it either way, I would imagine, you could go to serial lot tracking, and then you'd want to use, in this case, components used, plug in your parent item number, okay, and then the associated lots up here or serial numbers, and that would give you a breakdown of each of the components that were used and their associated lot number. And it would do that throughout every level. So if you needed traceability down to, say, a lowest level component that might have been pulled from a bogus lot or a bad lot or what have you, the reason for the recall, you would get that information here. If you had to go the other way, for instance, if it were a component part that might have been used in a given item, you'd have to go with where used. And where used, you could plug in the component part, and that would give you the associated lots or associated parents that particular lot might have been used in. But you would have to have that base list to work from over in ACPAC, once you knew what the sales number was. So.
Okay, and Tom asked a follow-up question, but how do I get that listing? I don't know which transactions have the component in question from ACPAC.
I would imagine ACPAC has a report that would give you that information. I can't really say. I'm sorry.
Okay, Peter says, can you assign serial lot numbers during purchase receipt?
Yes, sure. I didn't go over purchase orders, but sure. Really, at its foundation, when you're dealing with an SL tracked item, okay, anytime you process any transfer at all that affects a stock quantity, you're going to be prompted to make an assignment record. Okay, so I've got an existing PO here. I'll just add a line in there for our ABC raw. Okay, and I'll just put a quantity in. Just receive on it here real quick just so you can see how it works. But it's true really of any transaction you process. Once you flag it as SL tracked, you have to keep the quantity in stock in sync with what you've got flagged in a given lot or serial number. So what's happening here is as you receive these, we're increasing quantity, and it's going to ask us what lot number is that quantity of 1 going into. So you would then say, all right, well, here's my existing lots, right? Or let's say I even want to create a new one. Okay, you create a new one, and then you can assign it to that guy, right? But it's got to go into a lot.
Okay. Mark asks, can a pick list report be run to indicate lots closest to expiration to be pulled first?
Well, let's look at the UI report. It would use the default. Yeah, it would use the default sort. So the idea would be, in your case, if expiration is key, when you set these items up, what you would have to do is define your default sort by expiration date, and then it would show them based on that listing. So, but the report itself just gives you a sort by pick number or item, because the idea is you're taking this out to go and pick those. So in this case, if you wanted the available lots to be listed in expiration date, you would have to have flagged those in items as expiration date for the default sort. And just to refresh your memory, I know we did this in an hour, so it went kind of quick, but items, just so you can refresh your memory as to where that is. It's right on the master tab in the bottom section down here. You would select expiration date. So then what you'd find is on that pick list report, it grabs each of those items and it sorts them out based on their default sort. Okay, so you'd get them in expiration sorting.
Okay, thanks. And let's see, now Mary and a couple of other people have basically had the same question, Doug, about that remove button. Remember the remove button?
Yes. Yep.
Apparently they're a little worried about it, worried about their clients getting hold of it. Is there any way of either scraping that off the screen or locking it down somehow?
Well, it's interesting you brought that up. That has actually been brought up, so I imagine you will see something like that at some point. But right now it is there. It is available. So. And
you can't take it off?
No, no. So it is definitely a caution to let people know when you're training them on it. However, that has been brought up, so you could probably look. I can't say for sure, but you can probably look for something to be done there.
Okay. Tom would like to continue the discussion of tracking components and the finished good down to the raw material.
Okay.
I suspect that it's probably more than we have time to handle here today. How's the best way to handle that, Doug?
Well, if
send an email to you, or what would you like?
Yeah, if you want, send an email or give a call, and we can discuss it. That's fine.
Just Doug@MISysinc.com?
Sure, yep.
You don't need to put your home phone number out there, right?
Yep, or
okay, great.
call support, yep.
All righty. Very good. Now, there's one thing that, Doug, if you're finished,
sure.
Just wanted to mention, because while we've got some partners here, is that a number of partners have written to us asking if we have some content that we could offer them for their newsletters. And I don't know what people had in mind, but we've been thinking about that for a while. You know, it occurred to us that we've been doing this for 25 years, and there's a few things we've learned that we might like to share. So what we've done recently, if I can take control, is that me? You should be looking at my screen now. One of the things we're playing with is some RSS feeds. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with RSS feeds, but it's pretty cool. And it occurred to us that we have quite a bit of information about choosing the right size manufacturing system. So we've built that into a white paper, and actually, as it turns out, there are about 30 chapters in this white paper, or we call them issues. So we've decided that we'll publish a new issue maybe a couple of times a month or whatever seems to work. If you'd like to put that RSS feed somewhere in your website or in the newsletter that you send out to offer your customers and prospects real value, then feel free to do it. This, have a look at this. This white paper that we're offering here is completely product agnostic, and it's simply, you know, the wisdom that the MISys guys have accumulated over the years written down. So hope that you take advantage of that. If you'd like some help in getting that into your newsletter or website, just give us a ring. Maybe Scott Beavers would help you out in that. He's the guy who's still responsible for the channel. So at any rate, I just have to add that. And then we've had a question from a couple of people as whether we are doing pre-conference training at Insights. We're getting really excited about pre-conference, well, about Insights, but this year our pre-conference training is going to be for Peachtree. Last year was about ACPAC, and the Peachtree people were put out. So this year we promised to do it for the Peachtree people, and we hope that the ACPAC people won't hold it against us. So we will not be doing ACPAC pre-conference training, but we will be there at the show. We'd be happy to talk to you. Look forward to seeing familiar faces once again. So I think that's it for the day. Doug, thanks very much for this 45 minutes on everything you could ever want to know about serial lot tracking. We're coming sort of towards the end of the series. Thanks for your letters and emails of support. It's nice to know that we're satisfying the need out there. And if you have not registered for the next session, please do so today. You know where to find us on the web under ACPAC Manufacturing Webcasts, and here you'll find the recordings from the previous sessions. Today's session will be up in the next 24 hours, and then we'll be talking about labor tracking on Friday. So until then, we'll see you. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye-bye.